So I went to Scopus throughout my schooling life. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And I got the award at our one of our reunions for the girl who never left school, because I think I had a 4-year break from Scopus from the age of 4 to the age of, well, I'm not telling you how long, but for a while. I taught at Scopus for 34 years. The teachers were a lot more distant. I remember, you didn't have a relationship at all with a teacher, like it was a Mr. or a Mrs. whatever, and you didn't know anything about them, they knew nothing about you except that you were in the classroom. But I find that when I was a teacher, that things changed, that you become more interested, more involved in students' lives, which I liked. I like that sort of thing, knowing more about the students. So Holocaust has been a pervasive presence in my life. I don't remember a time that I didn't know about the Holocaust. My father had nightmares. He didn't talk about the Holocaust during the day, but he had nightmares at night because he was the only survivor from his family. So he had 4 siblings, parents, grandparents, all murdered in the Holocaust. He came to Australia as an orphan. He was 16 when he went through the whole process, and he didn't want to put a burden on me or on my sister, but at night he'd have nightmares, and I would ask him in the morning and he said it was the Holocaust. So that was one factor. And the other factor is on the 11th of April every single year, him and my mother would get dressed up absolutely magnificently. I've never seen my mother look so beautiful, my father look so handsome in a suit, and they would go to the Buchenwald Ball because he was liberated in Buchenwald, and there are about 1,000 orphans who were liberated there, and maybe 70 or 80 came to Australia, and because none of them had siblings, they were all murdered in the Holocaust, they became our adopted grandparents, surrogate aunties, uncles, grandparents. So on the 11th of April every year, they would have a ball, the 70 or 80 who came here to celebrate a new life, a new beginning. So when I'd say to him, like, your birthday's the 13th of December, he'd say, no, my real birthday is the 11th of April. That's when life started again for me. But for me, the thing is that I want to learn about it so that maybe by learning and understanding what happened, I can make this world a better place when we move forward. They came later, the role models, people like Holocaust survivors who, in spite of all the adversity, managed to overcome all of that and start new lives in Australia. People like Eva Slonim, I'm in awe of. I think she's a remarkable, remarkable lady. I often refer to her, I give a lot of talks about the Holocaust and often refer to her as a role model. People like Kitcha Altman, my father as well. If you think about it, they came to Australia with nothing, just nothing. And they could have been bitter and they could have been twisted and they could have been angry, but they didn't. They just gave love. They just wanted to do what they could. They wanted to build schools. They wanted to start new lives. They wanted to build the Jewish community. They wanted their children to be well educated. They wanted to, Mount Scopus was very important to my parents. We had to live behind a shop. I didn't live in a house until I was 16 because my parents couldn't, they wanted to make sure they had enough money to send us to Mount Scopus, to a private school, to get a good Jewish education. And all of these things were very important to them. So they're my role models, the survivors. I'd been teaching Holocaust at Scopus. I'd sort of helped to develop the Holocaust elective. And when Hilton Rubin was principal, he said to me, you're doing a really good job at teaching the Holocaust, but maybe there's something more that we can do. Is there a possibility of maybe a trip to Poland? And what had happened was that in 1998, I'd actually been on one of the Yad Vashem, they'd only done 2 study tours to Poland, because I think it's really good to learn in the books. You learn all the theory, you can talk to survivors, you can watch the films, but if you don't actually go to the places where it happened, it doesn't really impact on you. So when I went with Yad Vashem in 1998, I was sure that was going to be the answer, experiential learning, going and seeing for yourself. So when we started March of the Living, it was a time when school groups were not going to Israel. Like Scopus Ulpan was not going to Israel because of security reasons. So we sort of moved in at a time that we were offering something different in going to Poland, and we're also going to spend a week in Israel for Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom HaZikaron. It was life-changing, obviously, for me. It changed the whole direction of my life. I realised that this is the only way to learn properly. And everybody has to go to Poland just once to see for themselves, because if you go to Poland, you can see the depths to which humanity can sink, and you can see the resilience of those survivors. The never again is something that I don't believe in, because it's been all over again. Every single decade since the Holocaust there has been a genocide or a mass murder or mass killing, so I don't believe in never again. But I do believe in doing something with the experiences that the survivors went through. I don't want their lives to be meaningless. So for me, what's really important is trying to change the world through education. So I was awarded an Order of Australia last year, and the award was for my contribution to society in promoting tolerance and understanding and acceptance of each other, and that was through education. So I'm really passionate about it. I love teaching. I just really love the teaching, but I love teaching to try and make this world a better place, to be more tolerant, understanding of everybody, because if we don't do that, then I worry about the future of our society. The world is a small place, and that we have to be tolerant and accepting of everybody, no matter religion or creed or nationality. I think that tolerance is the whole key, education and tolerance.